Welcome to Break Free to Brilliance podcast, empowering women in business through thought provoking interviews and insights. Embrace your authentic power, explore the impact of your story, and discover how writing your best selling book can amplify your message, authority, and the three I's: impact, influence, and income. Let each episode guide you towards brilliance in minutes. This is your host, Seema Giri.
Hello.
Hi, Stacia. How are you?
I am amazing. This summit has been incredible. I've been here all day taking notes. It's just blowing my mind. So I'm excited to be here and share information with everybody who's here. And the other speakers have definitely set the bar very high. You've done an amazing job too.
Thank you so much, Stacia. I appreciate it. Well, we've talked about handling different aspects of business in terms of marketing and messaging and money and doing the inner work. Now we're all ready to be visible, Stacia. We are
Yes.
ready to be visible and say lights, action, camera. But before we dive into that, I would love to hear your story. What is your story and how did you get started with your business?
Well, I actually got started with my business. I had been working as a television news producer. I've been a TV news producer for over 35 years. And back in 2013, when I was working in a top three market in the country, I had one of the highest rated newscasts. In fact, it was number one in my time slot for many, many years, like 15 years. And the station got a new general manager. And he had the brilliant idea that he was going to cancel my show.
Oh,
So I literally produced my show. I remember it was June 13th, 2013. I produced my show. We got off the air, and my news director came in and she says, "Oh, we just want to talk to you." And at that instant, I knew what was coming. And I didn't
mhm.
panic, but I knew what was coming. And we had a meeting, and he said, the station's going in a different direction. We're doing something new. And, as of today, we no longer have your show.
Mm.
And so while my news director was crying, literally crying, I was totally calm because I knew that this was really just the beginning of a new chapter. Well, at that point, I'd had several businesses before. I had had a children's fashion line, I had a line of home accessories, I had had a retail store. And for each of those businesses, I had been on TV. I had actually been able to secure media attention for myself and for my business. And so when I got laid off from my job, I knew that I had valuable skills. And I just said, okay, Stacia, you got this opportunity. Are you going to go find another job and put your future once again in somebody else's hands? Or are you going to bet on yourself and take the skills, the knowledge, the wisdom that you have and strike out on your own? And that's what I decided that I was going to do. I knew that as a producer, I had been getting pitch after pitch after pitch from people, sometimes individuals, business owners, sometimes even huge PR firms who would pitch me to get on my show. And frankly, they were just bad. And I said, well, hey, there's a need here because these people, they have good stories, they have great content, they bring massive value, but they're not getting in front of these audiences because they're just not going about it the right way.
Mm.
So I decided I was going to teach people how to do it. I was going to share my 30 years of TV and really teach them here's what the media is really looking for, here's what they want, here's how you align what you offer with what they need. Um, and so, yeah, I started doing that. And I would even find businesses. I'm one of those people, I love to talk to people, I love meeting new people. And I could meet someone at a library or a grocery store or, wherever. I could talk to a doorknob. But I would hear people tell stories and I'd be fascinated. And I would say, wow, have you ever been on TV? Have you ever even thought about television? And most of the time they would say, no. Um, who would want to talk to me? Why would I want to be on TV? What do I'm not famous. I'm not rich. That's for
Yeah.
the rich and famous. That's not accessible to me. And I knew that there were people out there who really could use and really needed media because you can have the best business, the best service, you could be the best at what you do, but if no one knows how to find you, what's the point? And so
Yes.
that is literally how my business was born. So I was basically, I would go out and I would find people and I would go, into shops. I would go to doctor's offices and dentists and retail shops and restaurants and say, hey, you've got a great business. The world needs to know you. So let me get you on TV. And it just kind of grew from there. And that was the beginning of Stay Ready Media.
That's amazing. What a wonderful story that you remained calm, you knew what was coming down and not, not crying, you felt bad, but you were able to quickly think of what's next for you that, to do, which is commendable. That's not an easy thing to hear that your award-winning show is getting canceled.
Yeah.
Especially since it's award-winning too, right? You would think that's
Oh,
something that they would keep.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, but I really believe that that was the beginning of a new chapter.
Yeah.
And I've always been sort of a half glass full person. And I thought, this is not the end. This is really the beginning. I didn't know what it was the beginning of, but
Right.
it was
Right.
the beginning of something. And I knew that I just had to find out what it was. You have to turn, this obstacle into an opportunity. And that's what I did.
Exactly. Yes. And so let's talk about getting on TV and what that entails. When is the right time for a business owner to get on TV?
Simple answer now.
So
And
is it
what I
like
mean by
roughly in like a years of a set number of years in business or anything like that?
no, absolutely not. And the reason I say that is because just think about the value that you have. Now, I've had people who get on TV. Sometimes it's for their business, sometimes it's their personal story that is their first introduction to television or media in general, whether it's a newspaper article, um, whether it's a podcast in some cases, it could be a magazine article, a radio show. And sometimes it's that personal story, even that is their first introduction to television.
Mm.
For me, myself, that was one of the ways when I started getting on TV for my personal story because I worked for a television station. So it would be a conflict of interest for me to be on another station, on a competitor station.
Hmm.
But me being the person that I am, I'm like, you know what? It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And so I
Right.
did it anyway. And I would go to work and people would be like, did I see you on channel so and so this weekend? I'm like, yeah, you did. That was me.
My
Uh,
twin.
right, exactly. But one of the times that I was on there was for something where I shared a personal story where my youngest son at the time, he was born several months prematurely. And, he had a very challenging first few months on this earth.
Mm.
And I love to quilt. I'm a very creative person. And one of my hobbies and the things that keeps me centered is sewing and quilting. And so I started making quilts for other babies in the neonatal ICU.
Mm.
And so I would get friends together, we would make these quilts. And every Christmas Day, we would go to the hospital and deliver a whole van load full of quilts to the
Oh,
babies who were in ICU. And of course, as a producer, I knew this was a great story. And so I contacted media outlets and I said, hey, here's a story. But it wasn't about me. The story was really to inspire other people to do those things. It was also me sharing the story of how my son went through these challenges, our family went through these challenges, and we overcame. So we were giving other families hope.
mm.
So when people are pitching the media, I always tell them, don't make it about you. It's not about you. When I meet people now and they say, oh, yeah, I need to be on TV because I'm the best at this and I'm the best at that. And I
Right.
say, you probably are. And that's amazing. And that's incredible. But when you're telling your story to the media, it can't be about you. It's about what is the value that you bring to that audience? What are you trying to accomplish? Obviously, down the road, you want to accomplish making money, right? As a business, if you're not making money, you don't have a business. But your immediate goal is to deliver value to that audience. So everything that you do when you're thinking about media has to come from that place. Take the focus off of you. And that's what I did. And of course, I knew how to do that because I'm a media professional. But
Yes.
I knew that there were hundreds of other stories that desperately needed to be told, but people just didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, and it's scary, Stacia. It's scary to think of that. I have been ready to talk about my story, and I have been ready. So I'm doing summits. I'm playing it safe, and I've been getting the nudge that I need to go on TV, but I feel like I don't know. I'm not ready yet. But possibly it could be because I'm not sure what to expect after that, right? So when a business owner goes on TV, what can they expect to happen for their business?
Well, several things. Number one is you need to know what do you want to what do you want to happen, because all media is not created equal, and
Mhm.
that means the results of your media are not going to be the same. So you have to think about, what do I want? What is my purpose for going in front of the media? So is it to get clients? Is it to simply elevate my authority? Is it to just show up so people see me and they can find me?
Mhm.
So getting clear on what is your goal. The other thing that you have to be very clear about is, not only the value that you offer to that audience, but what is the story that you want to tell? Because a lot of people, particularly business owners, I find they think that they are the story. And what I mean by that is they'll pitch the media and say, hey, I'm this, this is my business. If ever you need someone to speak on this topic, then you can reach out to me.
Mhm.
That's not an effective pitch, because that's not going to get you anything. You're making them do all the work. That producer or that editor now has to do all the work to figure out, where do you fit in? You have to do your work on the front end to figure out what you want in the end to come from it. And we basically, when I work with my clients, we reverse engineer that plan based on what it is that you want to accomplish. So, do you want to get speaking engagements? Do you want to get a book deal or a movie deal? Do you want corporate contracts or grants? And we reverse engineer your strategy based on the results that you want.
Hmm, that's interesting. I did not think of it from that perspective, and I think many business owners are not thinking it from that perspective too. So that's really good insight. So, do you have what what tip can you give for us business owners or women coaches, consultants to break free from that hesitation and go move forward with getting on media, getting on TV, and getting more visible?
Yes. When there's hesitation, I always say, go back to your why. Go back to the reason that you do what you do. What is your reason for starting that business? Yes, you want to make money, but you could have picked any number of other things to do to make money. There
Hmm.
has to be a deeper why, right? There has to be that connection, your purpose, your passion, and go back to that. And that really helps you to kind of recognize and really put a spotlight on the value that you bring, because often we downplay our own value. And I was doing the same thing. I could always spot somebody else's brilliance, somebody else's greatness, and a reason why the world needed to know them. And I wasn't doing the same thing for myself. I wasn't, shouting my accomplishments from the rooftop. I wasn't saying, why clients should work with me, as opposed to so many other people who claim to be media experts and PR
Mhm.
experts and who've never worked a day in the media.
Right,
Right.
right.
So that, they're just kind of regurgitating something that they read or something that they heard. But you really have to tap into your real why. And that is typically the thing that the media wants to talk to you about. That's the root of the value. That's really how you can inspire, you can enlighten, you can educate, you can engage people, and being willing to share your original story, because you're unique. Even people who may be in the same field and do similar work to what you do, you are unique. And that is what the media wants.
And I think the number one question most of us have is our story worth it? So if anyone needs to hear, both Stacia and I are saying, yes, your story is worth it, and your story needs to be heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Your story is important. And, you know, the story, this is really what starts conversations. It's the story that changes the world, right? When we think about stories, how many times have you may have heard a story and thought, oh my gosh, you too? Right? These are
Yeah.
things that nobody talks about, you know, that vulnerable state, those challenges, those obstacles, the things that make you real and relatable. You know, I mean, you can go and say, oh yeah, well, I had this business and it's been perfect, and I, you know, this is what I set out to do, and everything's been perfect along the way. Nobody can relate to that as a business owner, right? You want to hear from people who say, yeah, you know, like many of the speakers today, right? Danielle talked about how she started this business and, you know, hung out her shingle and there were no clients.
Yes.
That's a challenge, right? Teresa talked about the challenges that she had. Those are the types of stories that television audience, magazine readers actually connect with, real people. And so when you're thinking in terms of going in front of the media, be willing to be vulnerable. And that doesn't mean, you know, you share everything, but there are bits and pieces of your story that people will connect with, and not thinking of the media as, you know, the place for you to do your shameless self promotion. That is the biggest mistake that most people make. And whether they know it or not, people who do that, those producers are sitting there going, this person will never be invited back. We're not having them back because they didn't keep the audience in mind. Be relatable, be real, be you, and then I always say, don't wing it. Don't think that, you know, you get an opportunity to be on TV and now you want to just wing it. You have to be prepared. You have to know what to expect, whether you're going into a television studio or whether you're doing a Zoom, because many stations still do Zoom interviews. Zoom is a valuable, valuable tool,
Right.
but it's very different. You know, is it a live interview or a taped interview? Again, those two things are very different. And so what I do with my clients is I train them to know exactly what to expect. So there are no surprises. You're not going to be sitting on a set and a question comes out of left field and then you leave going, "Oh my God, I can't believe they asked me that. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't think of an answer. I became a deer in the headlights. You know,
Mm.
or I stumbled and I stuttered." That doesn't happen with us because my team and I train you and we actually put you in the driver's seat when you're doing media interviews. And most people don't even realize that that's a thing. They think that,
Mm.
you know, they just have to leave it up to the outlet and, you know, I'm just at the mercy of whatever this host or this television anchor asks me, when that is absolutely not the case. You got to be prepared.
That is so good to know. Yeah, and you're preparing anyway when you're talking about your business, when you're doing your speeches, when you're doing your lives. So, and I guess is that are these the ways to build up the confidence to be on TV too?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Understanding your value, knowing your story, and, you know, doing those things like, you know, Facebook lives, Instagram lives, those types of things absolutely help. But also recognizing that when you're doing a television interview, it's a little bit different because oftentimes you can give a television interview and it's not always about people buying from you. That's where people mess up. They go on and they talk about, oh, well, my business is that and I have that and this.
Mhm.
And many times I train my clients to deliver a story that's going to resonate. And many times they don't even have to mention their business. And then they notice their website traffic is going up. You know, people are going to their website. I had a client just Saturday where we did an event, media came out. He called me today and he said, you won't believe we just got $5 million from someone who saw our story and wanted to help us make the impact in the world. That's the
Wow.
power of your story. You know, that's really where it starts. It all starts with the story, not the self promotion.
And that's why you need to be on TV.
Absolutely. That's why. That's why. So I say start before you think you're ready.
Hmm.
And that often will mean start small, right? Everybody will say, oh, well, I want to be, you know, I want to sit down and have a conversation with Oprah. You can't do that today. You can do that. And I've had clients who've done that, right? Who had tea with Oprah and who've been in Oprah magazine and all of that. But you don't even want to start there because the truth of the matter is, if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to end up being a blown opportunity, which I've seen as well. So when you
Yes.
go into the media, you have to know what you want to get out of it, and you have to have a strategy behind everything that you do. All of your media has to have a strategy behind it. So you can't think, well, I just did a media interview and customers are not banging down my door. And when people tell me that, I often say, well, what did you do after that media interview? How did you leverage it? And they're like, oh, I was supposed to do something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a key thing. And I'm so glad that, we're talking about this because I think we just broke a couple of myths here that one, you can be in control. It's not like you won't be in control of the interview. Two, you can be prepared and know exactly what's going to happen and how it's going to be. And then the third one, I think the most important one is that you start now. You don't have to wait.
Absolutely. Start now. It doesn't mean you're going to be on the Today Show tomorrow. Start with your local newspaper, your local news. Those are excellent places to start because number one, there's a lower barrier of entry. Those outlets, they're smaller. So they know that you may not necessarily be a media expert, but they're willing to share your story. And then
Yeah.
you can kind of build up, but use it as a tool to elevate your authority.
Definitely, yes. That is a great advice. So, if you are ready to get some media exposure and TV, let me see some emojis. Let's see some emojis if you are ready to. All right, if you're ready to start thinking about it.
And that's the other thing that we have to do. We've got to break through this because our
Yes,
brains will always tell us we're not ready.
yes.
We tell ourselves, well, I'm not an expert. Nobody wants to hear my story. Why would the media want to talk to me? The truth
Yes.
of the matter is, you do have so much value. You absolutely do. You're an expert. You are a badass at what you do, and you deserve that exposure.
Yeah, you deserve that exposure. And, you know, I just lost my train of thought. Just by thinking about talking about TV. Oh, here it is. If you are here today and you've caught Stacey's talk, and if you're watching this on replay and you see it, sometimes you're like, okay, I'm gonna wait for the sign. This is your sign. It's
This
not
is
by
the spot.
accident.
That's right.
This is your sign that it is time to leverage your story to unleash your prosperity. And you do that through many aspects that we talked about with your messaging, with your marketing, with your speaking, with your books, with your podcasts, and with being on media. Start slow and you'll build from there because you need exposure. People need to know about you. You
Yes.
can't be you don't want to be the best kept secret.
You do not. You do not. And I've heard people say that so often. Well, I'm just the best kept secret. I'm just a little hidden gem. And I always say, well, how's that working for you? You know? No, you don't want to be a hidden gem. You want the world to know your name. When those, prospective clients are looking for you, they want to be able to find you. And it's not always just a matter of using social media and paid ads and things like that. Those things are not bad because I really think that they should also be an important part of your marketing strategy. But media is free. Why wouldn't you leverage it? It's free.
All right, guys, she's got me moving. If by that word free, if as I'm moving you, then we need to talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. Stacia, I've learned so much from you. I've had so much fun talking with you. This has been amazing. And thank you so much for spending the time with us here today to help our audience really grow and become more visible and get comfortable with that idea. I know it's a scary thing, but hey, you went into business to impact millions. We're not doing small things here. You
Right.
are a woman on a mission, woman who is talented. We're not going to let you settle for small. So
Mm,
let's grow big together and get visible.
Yes. Yes.
And I believe you have a gift for our guest today.
I absolutely do. So my gift to you is my Pitch Ready Media Kit. Now, what this is it's basically a plug and play template for you. So if you have never pitched the media before, it includes a pitch template where you literally can fill in the blanks and send that to producers, editors, and get featured in the media. And it also includes my 2024 media calendar, which is such a valuable tool because it shows you different special occasions, trending events, holidays, specialized months, weeks, days, and years where you can find those opportunities where you can show up and literally be the gift that those journalists are looking for. There is a day, a week, a month for everything. So no matter what your area of expertise is, it will work. If you are a chef, a dentist, a doctor, a coach, a healer, an author, it doesn't matter. There is something in there for you.
Thank you, Stacia. That sounds like an incredible gift. I have seen that myself, and it is amazing. It's truly valuable. So make sure you take this opportunity to um, grab that free gift. Thank you so much, Stacia. I appreciate you.
You're very welcome. This has been incredible and amazing. And I can't wait for the VIP session. So I hope you all will be tuning in for that as well.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Break Free to Brilliance podcast, and I hope you had some key takeaways that you can implement right away. Be sure to subscribe to Break Free to Brilliance wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow along with us on social media using the links in the show notes below. We'll see you again for the next episode.